It's New Year's, and Amane and Mahiru watch on television Buddhist monks ring the temple bell commemorating the start of the new year. They then respond to some New Year's texts, and Amane's father asks if it's alright for his mother and him to visit in a couple of days. Amane gives his approval, and when he tries to tell Mahiru this, she falls asleep on his shoulder. Figuring that Mahiru had tired herself out because she prepared their New Year's dinner, Amane tries to wake her up, but fails. Hence, Amane decides to have Mahiru use his bed that night while he sleeps on his couch. The following day, Amane finds Mahiru still asleep, so he wakes her up, and a small scene where Mahiru asks if Amane likes touching her cheeks when she's asleep plays out. Time passes, and Amane's mother Shihoko and father Shudo arrive at his apartment. After Shihoko becomes reacquainted with Mahiru, Shudo introduces himself to Mahiru and thanks her for caring for his son. A little later, they all sit together, and Shihoko then asks if the two have gone to the shrine yet, which Amane states they haven't. Pleased by this, Shihoko claims it was good since she brought a kimono for Mahiru. Although Amane was okay with Mahiru getting a kimono from his mom, he was against visiting the temple with her since it'd draw bad attention if his peers caught him there with Mahiru. However, Shihoko insists on them going, and Amane caves into his mother's wishes. Dressed in a dapper suit, Shudo compliments his son's appearance and has a heart-to-heart with his son. Shihoko then reveals Mahiru wearing the kimono she brought her, and Amane is impressed by it. While Shihoko and Shudo prepared the car, Amane and Mahiru talked more about how Mahiru looked wearing her kimono and Amane wearing his suit. Arriving at the temple, Mahiru and Amane draw a bit of attention to each other because of how they're dressed. They then give a prayer at the temple, and later, while waiting for Amane's parents to get their fortunes, Amane asks what Mahiru prayed for. Mahiru answers health, safety, and the continuance of peaceful days like the one she experiences daily. Later, Mahiru shares her red bean soup with Amane, who shares his sweet sake with her. A brief humorous scene happens between them, and Amane reveals an incident involving Chitose drinking his soda while Itsuki stood by and watched. That night, Mahiru and Amane say good night to each other and reflect on Mahiru's pleasant experience eating dinner with Amane's parents. Their conversation takes an embarrassing turn when Amane pats Mahiru on the head, and when she stops him from continuing. Mahiru rushes to her apartment and calls Amane a dummy. The next day, Amane, with Mahiru, sees his parents off, and he promises to visit them over the summer, though he understands that he's being pressed to bring Mahiru along too. After this, they return to Amane's apartment, and Mahiru has a heart-to-heart with Amane concerning his personality. A rumor was spread at school that Mahiru now has a boyfriend after being seen accompanied by a handsome man at the temple the other day. Itsuki figures out that Amane is the rumored boyfriend, much to the latter's annoyance. Said rumor was discussed at Amane's apartment, and the two discuss said rumor with each other. Amane's opinion of finding it uncomfortable being called her boyfriend by someone like her, but Mahiru rebuts that statement. She rebukes him for his low opinion of himself and lists positive traits about him. Flustered by this, Amane insists on washing the dishes, and Mahiru agrees. While Amane does this, an embarrassed Mahiru covers her face with a pillow, prompting Amane to wonder why she complimented if she'd be so embarrassed. Chitose visits Amane at his apartment to ask for advice concerning Valentine's Day. She's hoping to give Itsuki some chocolates as she did in middle school, but make it more special this time. Amane was uneasy and uncomfortable responding mainly because Mahiru was also there. When Chitose asks what kind of chocolate Amane likes since she planned to give him chocolates, he answers semi-sweet chocolates. Pleased by Amane's answer, Chitose asks Mahiru if she plans to give any chocolate away on Valentine's Day, and she answers only to the girls she's friends with within her class. She also promises that Chitose will get some too, which pleases her. The next day at school, Yuta, the most popular first-year boy, is given plenty of chocolates by his female peers as the boys in his class watch in envy. Amane and Itsuki briefly talk about the amount of chocolate Yuta was receiving and then talk about the Russian roulette chocolates Chitose had made for him. Itsuki also asks Mahiru has made any chocolates for him, but he denies it. Later, Chitose gives her chocolates to Amane and confirms they are Russian roulette chocolates. Before leaving the classroom, Amane gives Yuta his spare bag to make it easier for him to carry home all his chocolates. A few days pass, and Amane finally tries one of the chocolates and eats a spicy one. To clean Amane's palate, Mahiru serves him some hot cocoa, and Amane asks if Mahiru made it because of Valentine's Day. Mahiru gives a vague confirmation, and Amane thanks her for it nonetheless. Flustered, Mahiru abruptly leaves, but leaves on Amane's door a bag with a thank you note attached to it. The bag contained orangettes made by Mahiru since they closely matched Amane's chocolate preference. The following day at school, Yuta thanks Amane for giving him his spare bag the other day, which surprises the girls in their class. Amane is then approached by Itsuki, and they talk about Yuta talking to Amane and then change topics to Itsuki one day marrying Chitose. Itsuki then mentions if Amane will one day propose to Mahiru, however, he denies that, claiming it had never come to be. That afternoon, Amane returns home, where Mahiru sits sheepishly while hugging a couch pillow. Amane thanked Mahiru for the chocolate she made him. They then have a heart-to-heart about how the other was thankful for helping them. Mahiru also gets a bit upset when Amane reveals his birthday to her, but didn't tell her. However, Amane retorts that she never revealed her birthday to him. Flustered, Mahiru gets defensive, but Amane plays it off as nothing. In preparation for White Day, Amane polishes up his appearance and gives Mahiru a flower chain bracelet and a do-whatever-you-want ticket. Hence, Mahiru asks that Amane put the bracelet around her wrist, and he does so. Some days later, Amane would talk to Itsuki about his White Day experience with Mahiru at a restaurant. In Itsuki's opinion, Amane gradually developed feelings for Mahiru. Afterward, Amane returns to his apartment, where he's greeted by Mahiru, who, in Amane's opinion, is dressed like a housewife. Learning that Amane was out with Itsuki eating fries, Mahiru noted her disapproval as it'd not only spoil his appetite, but he'd gain weight too. Amane then claims that Mahiru could use some extra meat on her bones, but while saying that touched Mahiru, which she was not fond of. On the other hand, Mahiru claimed that she merely doesn't like other boys touching her. Noticing that Mahiru wasn't wearing the bracelet he bought her, Mahiru details that it's bothersome when she does chores and will wear it in her free time. As their conversation continues, Amane goes into his room to change, but internally notes that Mahiru really is like a housewife. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe.